maybe going through here, and some highlights. Now, you can't send them to each other, but if you send them in to us, we can kind of do a synopsis of what some of the changes or whatever were, what some recommendations were on that, and bring it back to you at the July meeting. And this was a starting point of at least starting that conversation, because we came out of the workshop and wanted you to feel something was getting done.
I think you get what you pay for, though. Starting with a temporary, I'm sure Rick has got guys that work for him that come with a certain skill set, and we're not teaching you on-the-job training, but you at least come with some way to be effective here. Because we do have a small city, we do also, now you mentioned that we do have access to the Creative Arts Cafe. What could be done with that? We have not yet even considered that, but it is something that would be part of our events. So to be able to have some way of looking at it from a perspective that we're going to promote the city and not just show up. We have to promote the city. The city's not, I don't think we are, and let me just back up one place. The $60,000 salary was not our commission. It was the previous commission. And whatever the thought behind that, I have no idea. The fact that $60,000, and that was while we still had the Creative Arts Cafe. That was what they were talking about then. I don't know what that placeholder was for, but I definitely don't think $60,000 would have been what we would be paying somebody. But we do need to have both a job description with a salary, if you want to call it that, as well as a budget. Because I think a lot of the things that go under the radar is that when we have events, and not only do you have to show up for events, but we need to be able to have things like these days. Even if you list all the things that we pay for, and it's part of our budget, at least if we have a budget amount, then if the budget starts to become depleted, then we can maybe make some workarounds. But to just have a temporary person that comes in part-time and hope that they can get all of the pieces of this puzzle worked out, I think we would need somebody that has at least the experience that can give us more, or they say more bang for our buck.
Well, and I mentioned that when I was talking. That,
I heard you.
Yeah, they come with, and they asked you or something like
Yeah,
that.
we just discussed it.
No. I just think going very round and seeing, because I've heard so many times from the dais that we've got to pay so much money because nobody wants to work, in Lake Helen, so we've got to pay top salary for all these people. And I don't really believe that. I think a lot of people would like to work in Lake Helen, and I think that bringing someone in temporary, that's a 6-month job. They can be hired full-time after the 6 months. I'm not saying I'll eliminate them, but at least that will give them some hands-on getting used to Lake Helen. And then, as an example, we could probably go to Stetson University and recruit someone from there to look at a job like this. $15 an hour, $40 or 40 hours. We're waiting 40 hours a week. I think I just think that would be the best way to go, and certainly would be saving the city from immediately paying benefits, which is going to increase that salary a lot.
Yes, Rob?
Well, for years, we've had activities in the city that have been coordinated by the local people, and they have done outstanding jobs. And it is my understanding that this whole whole thing came up with what appeared to be one person in mind that they wanted to hire, that the couple people wanted to hire to fill the position, and I think that's been falling apart. There's been a lot of activities that have been proposed and requested and have been turned down by previous administration that would have benefited Lake Elm and brought a lot of attention to Lake Elm. But they weren't done because of previous administrations. Was about a month or two ago, we took the chains off of the gym station that was holding them back from being able to do activities. Now they can do activities there and promote Lake Elm through that. But they've always been everybody's always been able to come together and coordinate things, and even our big one, our 4th of July one. You get 2 or 3 organizations together and they coordinate those activities greatly. And we are the place to go to in West Volusia for 4th of July fireworks because of what they've done and the things that have promoted Lake Elm through that. So I don't see really where we even need to. I can understand having the job description just in case we decide we want to put somebody in as a temporary assistant to assist the other people in getting things done, but I don't see where we need to worry about hiring somebody in that aspect when we already got people out here in town that are doing the job.
Actually, there, Commissioner, if I can clarify, we talked 60. It's actually 85,000 is in the budget because they budgeted not only the salary and wages at 60, but FICA for 5,000, retirement contribution at 8,000, life and health insurance at 11,000, and workers' comp at 1,000. So that's 25,000 after the 60. So we really, they budgeted $85,000.
I agree with what Roger said, and I think we need to give the gyms time to see how they are able to pull off.
Yeah, Scott and I still have the
Yeah.
process of getting that contract.
Do a lot of these,
Yeah. Again, I'm not recommending advertising. I'll be honest. I mean, from my time here, if there was a position that is the least of the worry right now, I'm going to agree with Roger. I mean, it works. It's been getting through. You know, there's always some bumps and something, but it's worked for you all. You know, but coming out of there, that meeting, with that discussion, so the first step was a job description. So, yes, you can approve a job description, have it on file, and don't have to advertise, don't have to go forward. And then you can always go back to it as things evolve and if it doesn't work out.
I think what we were left with the gym, it was going to be a discussion between you, Scott, and Alan.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet.
No.
Okay. So that's why I wouldn't
There's
jump.
a lot of things on the
Yeah, I wouldn't jump ahead, and I'm not putting them out, but as far as this one thing as it stands now, we haven't gotten to the gym yet, and what they want to be able to provide, what we can expect. I'm sure that the shortcuts that the gym can do, because they don't have to deal with the city structure, not that they don't have to deal with the city structure, but you guys can get more things done in a day than we can do in a month or two. So I'm looking forward to see what you guys, and that's not putting a lot on you, Scott, Alan, but right now this is what we're working with.
So you don't need that. I mean, if that's the case and we want to work through and see what happens with Jim, and there's a consensus there, we can just table this.
And the other thing,
Bring that back at a time.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea, and you also just brought something to the table that hadn't been thought of before, is that we were talking about $60,000 when it turns into it's $85,000. So that's on a line item, so that money, that $85,000, until we do something else with
It's in the budget.
it could be used for something else. And we didn't see that before. so.
That's for a salaried employee though,
Mhm.
right? And what we had discussed was not, that it would be a contractor.
But the money was already
That
laid
was
up.
budgeted, right?
Yeah, they budgeted that, okay.
So, I'm prepared to make a motion if you're ready for one.
You ready?
I'd like to make a motion that we table this topic.
My only comment about when you table something, technically, it shows up, I think, under the Robert's Rule of Order, every agenda under table
To the next one, to the next one.
for indefinitely,
Mhm.
until you have to make a motion to take it off the table. I mean, I think that's technically how the Robert's Rule of Order do. I think y'all can just say, we'll wait to bring this up at a later date. And just say, without motion to table or anything, not voting it down, just say, let's just not take any action on this and we'll bring it back later.
Finish looking at it like he asked us to do and bring it back later, when we feel like it.
And that's also a teachable moment, because a lot of times, not a lot of times, but things do come up to the table, we don't know. I didn't realize that you just spoke to that, that's going to be next month.
Motion to defer?
Is that a deferral?
I mean,
It's the wording that makes it.
I'm not a real big Robert's Rules of Order.
right.
It's just not me. But I just know technically when you table something, you have to make a motion to take it off the table to discuss it. And I've seen it with other cities where they actually, it just shows up, table item, every agenda
What
table.
we can
item.
add is the commission took no action.
Commission took no action,
Okay.
and then if the need arises, we'll come back to it.
Does that suffice?
Jim's comfortable,
Okay.
Roxanne are comfortable with that, we know where we all stand.
Okay.
On it. That's-
So, do we have to do a motion?
No.
Okay. End of discussion. The next thing is the animal tethering ordinance. We have it. No. I'm sorry. Joey, I've just ignored you twice. So, I mean, we tabled it. Does that work then? Event coordinator, because he did have a two car.
Yeah, I was
No
quick.
tables, no action.
He doesn't,
No action.
he doesn't want me to come up here anyway.
So,
I just want to say I've been here for 38 years. In 38 years, we had JC clubs do a lot of our events. Afterwards, the teen center took over. Somebody's always stepped up. I don't think it'll ever be the day that somebody don't in the city, including if the gym shut down, that we don't go pound on y'all's door, that somebody won't jump up to keep this stuff going. I'm just saying, as far as I see the city as a citizen, at the current moment, I'd rather see the money go for another person in public works. Because if you put an event coordinator in there, the one thing we're gonna do is put more on Ricky, and the few people we do have at the current moment, and that events coordinator is not gonna have nobody do the stuff for them anyway. So I think it would be better to go put the money that way than somebody to do events when we have survivors on our own doing our own events, and they turn out pretty well for what I think for our city. That's it.
I apologize.
No, you're good.
Okay, the tethering ordinance.
Let me read it by title.
Yes, please.
I noticed I have a typo in my title, so I'm gonna read it the correct way.
Okay.
Ordinance number 2024-04, by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the city of Lake Helen, Florida, amending section 24.04.00, duty of animal owners, not owners, to be responsible owners, to provide regulations for the tethering of animals, providing for legislative findings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. And I can just tell, I drafted this ordinance, and basically what I did is took the county regulation on tethering, which the discussion was at that meeting, and just incorporated it, found a place in our ordinance to incorporate our regulations and incorporate that, the county language into the city's existing regulations. So I think I basically created a new subsection K of that regulation. And that is pretty much verbatim from the county regulation, which was the direction from this body.
So that addresses people keeping them tied up in their yards and stuff. So all that's addressed about people keeping their animals tied in the yard, that was not going to be allowed.
It's regulated as it provides in here. You can't, no person shall tether an animal to a stationary inanimate object as a means of confinement or restraint unless the restraint is temporary, the person is within sight of the animal, and the animal is at all times visible to such person.
As this is tethering, which is mostly I'm seeing a dog. Is any other animal underneath that? Cats, cows?
Don't you tether your chicken?
Believe it or not, people do tether chickens if they fight them.
Okay. All right,
But we do not.
I do have one
Ours are
quick
free.
question.
Ours are free range.
Roger.
In 12C, talks about being kept temporarily camping or recreation area, but it doesn't specify on somebody being there with the animal. Should somebody be at the campsite whenever the animal is?
You're speaking about the wording of it, or is it?
Well, that it allows, in reading it, allows them to leave the pet tether at the campsite or in the campsite without nobody being around.
Well, it does say temporarily. What is temporary? Like, you have to leave the campsite to.
If you've been with the dog for a month, one day could be temporary.
Yeah. Well, what section 1 says, which I read, says that no person shall tether an animal to a stationary or inanimate object as a means of confinement or restraint unless such restraint is temporary and the person is within sight of the animal and the animal is at all times visible to such a person. If we want to say that the person has to be there at the campsite, then we could probably strike that as an exception, because it basically 12 says the provisions of this section do not apply to a dog that is being kept temporarily at a camping site or recreation area. So if we strike that, then it will apply to dogs that are at a camping site or a recreation area, and then they can only be temporarily restrained as long as they are within sight of the person, the owner of the dog, if that's what you all want to do.
Most of those places
Yeah.
have rules against that anyways.
I like that better.
Okay.
The person has to be there with their pet.
Just so they don't walk off the lead dog. I don't know why it's in there, I didn't draft this, actual language, like I said, it came right out of the county's regulations.
Well, even the county makes mistakes and don't think about it.
Really? Go figure.
So do you need to modify that to include that, or?
What I can just do is, I think striking section C would basically mean that you can't, if you're gonna leave an animal at a campsite, camping or recreation area temporarily, then you have to be within sight of the dog, and the dog has to be within sight of you.
So just strike that?
Yeah.
C?
And
Well,
the
C.
person is within sight of the animal, and the animal is at all times visible to such person.
I have a copy from June Troy.
Now I'll turn it on, so.
Yeah, you're good.
June Troy, 421 Rosedale Lane. Yeah, thank you for all of this. But I had a question on number G, so it's the second page of the ordinance on G. Because we are a rural community and we have livestock and animals, I
I just thought, shouldn't we clarify that this, because this isn't part of the anti-tethering, but it is talking about noise and problems. And I've had a lot of people in Lake Helen saying, tell me that doesn't refer to livestock. And I know earlier in the Volusia County ordinances, they have a definition of livestock. And it's different than your animals, your domestic animals. So I just thought, they're reading it, and they had that question, and some other people did too. Should we clarify?
That's existing regulation, right?
What?
G. What's not underlined is our existing code. These are existing regulations. The only thing that's new is what's underlined.
Oh,
So that is right. I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be.
okay.
considered.
Only the new, okay, okay.
So,
All right.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, we can make changes that the commission wants to, but that is existing city regulation.
Okay, and then I do think that it's really important to clarify this word temporary, like what is temporary? Because that could be a problem. I know that Volusia County doesn't allow tethering at all, so some of their temporary, what they're calling temporary isn't really time. It has to do with like these activities where you said it doesn't apply. Where,
This is the county regulation. Verbatim.
right, right.
I just copied that one county, so that's what this is.
Well, I know, I've spoken to him a few times, and the word temporary should be defined a little bit better.
You know how the county, I mean, the county doesn't in their code to define temporary, but administratively, did they tell you the definition of temporary?
They said it was, and I tried to write it down, temporary in the context of tethering ordinance typically refers to a limited duration. However, the exact definition varies between different laws and regulations.
That's not anywhere exact.
I know, but that's why I'm asking you. It's only for a short period and not as a long-term or permanent solution. So like you find someone's dog, you know how they wander, you tie it up for a little while, that would be an exception.
I think one of the things, to me, what, just reading it, because I didn't draft this, I drafted the ordinance, but this came from the county. I think the fact that the person has to stay within sight of the animal, and the animal has to be visible to the person, that is the definition of kind of temporary. You can't go walk off, you can't tie the dog in the front yard and walk to the back yard.
But people will say that on here, been watching them all day long and all night long and all the next day and all this, so that's the loophole, is this temporary,
But
doesn't
I
have.
mean, if you show, if an officer shows up and that person's not there, they're in violation. I mean, you've got to
They're
continue.
not supposed to be tethering at all, so.
Well, you're allowed to tether.
Only-
Temporary, but as long as the person is within sight of the animal, and the animal is at all times visible to such person. So you cannot tether.
But only for
Well,
temporary, for short times, not.
It's temporary, but it has to be in sight. So if both those things have to occur, and really being in sight, to me, defines temporary, because if you're in front, if you tie a dog in the front yard, and you go in the house to go to the bathrooms, you're in violation. You go in your house to get a drink of water, you're in violation, because that dog, or that animal, is not within your sight at all times.
I agree with you,
So that would be, because I mean, you can say 30 minutes,
but
but
they don't do it like that in Volusia County. They don't allow you to use that and say, I was home all day with my dog. They don't want them tethered out, and as a means of owning an animal. They don't want that. Maybe if I could get a little more clarification as to how they handle it.
yeah, because I think.
I think we need to, we're going through all of this,
I think
they're not saying you can tether if you're home all day watching your dog. Even if you're staring at it, there's only a small amount of time they want the dog tethered. They don't want it tethered all day long just because you're home looking at it. That's the whole point. With the humanity portion of it.
it's fine. I mean, I have dogs, I don't live outside of
I
them, so.
don't get that.
So,
I mean,
but whatever, but I mean, if we say 30 minutes,
Yeah,
then animal control has to sit there for 30 minutes to watch that dog there. Of course, and that's fine. Either we can define it as 30 minutes or something like that.
I mean, it would help, it would certainly
True, eliminate the ambiguity.
yes, Yes,
Um,
I
I think we're,
Debating?
well, are you clear what you need? Is it,
Me? No.
no? Okay?
No, we need to come up with an understanding of what temporary means, so we have two
yeah,
options.
we need a real, so it's clear.
One option is y'all can obviously approve it tonight, this is just first reading. And then you can get with the county and get with Jim and say, this is what the county suggests we do, this is how administratively they handle it. And we incorporate their administrative procedures in between the first and second reading and bring back that revision to you. We can incorporate the part that Roger said about the campsites, we can take that out.
So-
That's one option. The other option is, if you would rather have the final document, then, we don't take any action on first reading, and we'll address the issue and bring first reading back.
That's fine.
Either one of those will work,
Right, yeah.
but we got first reading, we can change between first and second reading, so I have no problem with y'all.
This is not gonna be stamped and sealed.
I mean, I would rather it be done properly the first time, so we don't have these little loopholes like we
Well,
kind
we got
of.
these 2 readings that has to occur.
Great,
So we can do first reading now, make changes between first and second reading, and then come back with the second reading with the final document, and that's the approved document. If we don't do that, it's just going to delay this.
And then the first read will be July.
If we're gonna do first reading.
The second read would be August, where if these changes are made between now and July, or brought back in July, then it goes into effect.
There's an actual
I mean, I can make a phone call tomorrow and have the information for you. I mean, I'm not gonna drag my feet at all on it, but I just thought we should clarify temporary that. and-
So this
Let
gives
us get this on the books, and then we can,
Then we can modify it.
adjust it before this, before it's
First reading.
finalized.
Yeah, let's do first reading.
That's where we
And
are.
then you can get with Jim on the language, on temporary, and any other changes you see. You can shoot Jim an email or talk to him, and we'll make those changes when it comes back in July. For second reading, we'll have the revised document.
Okay.
You good with that?
Yeah,
All right, sounds good.
thank you.
Moving right along. Heather, in ordinance, does it need a motion that,
Needs a motion. Get a motion.
Yeah.
let's get
Yeah,
a
you
motion.
still make a motion.
Right, motion,
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 24-04 with the removal of 12C.
And we'll make any subsequent changes from the
Temporary definition.
definition of temporary and the other changes.
And incorporating the definition that's further coming, temporary.
Second.
second, all in favor? Aye. Those opposed, passes. Ordinance. Public Works,
I have nothing tonight,
in
sir.
favor. Police Department. Chief, I just had to ask you about that, the mother of all bombs that was supposedly. Yeah, give us some feedback. I got a lot of calls, and why is the bomb disposal in our
I
neighborhood?
don't know. It's he's on state probation for charges that we did on him, back in 2019, I believe. That was a state probation, operation that they did. So, just working.
I don't hear it.
It's on, it's.
Yeah, you're probably better.
Can you all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So we were out there several days prior with state probation to assist them with the search. Nothing was found on the property. They looked at their level or whatever. Apparently, somewhere down the line, they found something in video or photographs that they took that maybe violated his probation, or did violate his probation. What that was, I have no idea. So state came out several days later. Apparently, they called sheriff's office and requested their bomb squad to come out and stand by just in case something was found, and that's what the whole rigmarole was.
And they wouldn't give you a heads up on it?
They did not, and I'm assuming county most likely assumed that they would let us know about it.
If you need, I'll write a letter to Sheriff's Department.
It's done, it's a done deal.
Yeah, I just felt.
They're not required to tell us about it, they have jurisdiction in Lake Ellen, so.
But there's a courtesy, they could release, because we got more calls about that.
Sure.
And without having no information, that's where I guess.
Sure.
When it winds up under our desk, and we can't call you,
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to add too that, I too got a lot of calls, so I pick up the phone. It's time they calls. And, I ended up with the commander of the bomb squad. I don't talk to him. He actually used to live in Lake Calamine, thinking that his parents still live here. He told me that, your department had gone out the week before with a probation officer to do a search around the house, didn't find anything. But then I guess he got another call from the probation officer who saw Vaseline and some items that were bomb-making materials. And so, that's when they went into action with the sheriff's department and then contacted, apparently, I guess, the FBI, and that Department of FBI that we use in Central Florida must be out of Jacksonville. So they contacted Jacksonville, got everybody in town, and he apologized profusely because he said there was miscommunication.
And I knew it wasn't intentional, so I'm not gonna make a statement with anybody over anything, because I know it wasn't intentional.
Yeah,
I work with these guys before.
he was very apologetic about it, and he said he would make sure that that would never happen again.
okay, thank you. Yes,
Yes, Mayor, before we move into 11, as you know, the meeting comes up. Things come along, so I find it's
yeah,
easier.
we're at 10 now for the
Yeah.
quasi-judicial.
Yeah, but before we turn to 10, I just wanted to add some comments that I have for you. What was passed out is two documents. The first we'll look at is the title is the budget calendar for 2024-2025. We met today, staff, with Zach to discuss the 24-25 budget process. So we kind of laid out dates. There'll be some forms Zach will be providing back to us by the 17th. Between the 17th and the 12th, staff will be working on those forms. I'll be meeting with each director, and we're going to be going through their needs and what have you. We will then get those draft budgets back to Zach. July 11th, we will have an assessment update on the present, presented to the city commission meeting on just the assessment, separate from there. July 15th, we're proposing from the 24th. That's when the budget goes back to Zach, because then he will have the final valuations from the county that will come out after the 1st of July. Zach is then on a sabbatical for a period of time. So I'm proposing that the week of the 19th, I would ask you all, like, not necessarily tonight, but to look at your calendars, and then we would look at that as being a week where we would schedule, start out with two. We can pick 2 nights that week and do 2 budget work sessions. If we need another, then we can add to it. And then the public hearings, where you actually have the first readings of the budget, would be September 12th, and the second reading would be September 26th in terms of the budget. So I want to at least give you a working calendar on, so you have some ideas and some dates, and we started that process today. The other page I put on there is just some updates of some variety of items. Again, I listed on there 24-25 budget calendar update. Vice Mayor Eckert had asked if I could set up a meeting with C.J. Green from the Fish and Wildlife Commission. He got back with us today and said he would be available, but that his schedule would be during the day. So, not wanting to get into a conflict where I set up a meeting for one person and the other commissioner does not know about it. I wanted to let you all know then, do you want to meet with him individually? We could set something up then where if you want one-on-one, we could pick a date and
say he's there from 9 to 10, or if he's available, you could just call a work session and have a discussion with him. If that's okay, Roger, I mean, in the sense of, with the group having a discussion. So he's just waiting for us to get back with the dates and whether or not he's meeting one-on-one or he's meeting with the commission as a whole. So if you could, again, look at your calendars and provide some dates that I could get back with CJ, and we could set something up so that there could just be an update in reference to the Florida Wildlife Commission and what was the lake process for both Lake Helen and Lake Mason. The sixth item on there, I had sent out something earlier about voting delegates for the Florida League of Cities. At that time, I didn't know who was going. I've had 2 confirmations now between the mayor and the vice mayor. So typically the senior member of the commission is like the voting delegate, so I don't think you have to take any action on that. But I did send you all out information on the Florida League of Cities meeting or annual conference in Hollywood. So if you are going to go, you need to let us know as soon as possible, because there's a deadline in registering and being able to get hotels. If you wait too late after, there's a problem in getting a hotel if it's at the Hollywood Diplomat. And the last thing I wanted to advise you on, that Derek had left PON and has gone to work with another entity in Nashville. And in talking with Rick, just involving the relationship with PON and what have you, we propelled an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications that we were going to put out tomorrow for other engineering firms, see what we get, and maybe come back. You don't have to have one firm. You can have 3 or 4 firms, depending upon what that goes on. But what I'm really kind of looking for on this opportunity is that with PON, we got engineering and we got projects, but there are some engineering firms out there that also tie that into grants, both state and federal. So not only will they tell you what the problem is, they'll come back and tell you, we can find $100,000 to cover $150,000 of that problem. So I just want to let you know that we were putting one out, and when we come back on that, then we see what we get from some companies, then we'll bring those back to you in terms of see if you want to go ahead and engage in another engineering firm, that could be in addition to PON or as a replacement to PON. So these are just updates.
Thank you. We now moving to the.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
No, the League of Cities, I did tell them
Yeah.
that to let us know.
Yeah.
The one I forgot, 3, yes, out of the workshop that we had on City Hall, the RFQ is ready to go. So we have a pre-bid meeting scheduled for June 20th at City Hall, so the companies are going to be interested on that bid. And then there'll be a bid process, and I think that's going to be due at the end of somewhere in August, so that's moving along in terms of that. And thank you, Roxanne. It's a long night. The other is to remind you guys, and I know I've done it a couple of times, thanks to Roger and Heather. Between the 2 of them, $500 a piece, they made donations. So that qualified at what was called the bronze level for sponsorship. We sent an ad in. I sent you all a copy of the ad that Roxanne did. The city logo, and 8 tickets are in my office for a table. And the organization asked that if the tickets weren't used, for me to let them know, as soon as possible, and then they would allow those tickets to be used by scholarship students. So if you all can decide, whether yourselves or people in the community, we got 8 tickets, and that event is on Saturday, June 22nd. It's a luncheon. And I've sent out information to you. If you want individuals, somebody in the community that may want to attend, who win this Fowler, went to school with her, or what have you. If you can let us know kind of ASAP, because this is a week away, and so Reggie would need, not Reggie, Mr. Williams would, Mike would want to have enough time to be able to then know that we've got X number of tickets that Lake County's not using, that it could be let to take.
Are we moving toward the quasi-judicial?
Yes, you are. That was my evidence.
Is there anyone that has had any expert take communications with any of these buildings or addresses?
No.
Is there anything that anyone would want to single out of all of them individually?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
On 276 West Delaware. And it appears window trim has a condition. It says appropriate now. Just calling attention to that, making sure that we are proceeding with the appropriate.
Which address is that?
276 West Delaware.
Yeah.
Let me try to explain. I had a conversation at the, with both Debbie and with the Historical Design Review Committee at the last meeting they had. And I talked to Heather about the fact when they had conditions and whatever in there, and that's what's caused some of them to be tabled. The reason they send them forward is one, because of the timing, but that when there's a condition in there, both Bobby and Debbie review that is then in the final plans that come through. So there is a checks and balance that goes through on that process. But, you know, like sometimes it might be a color scheme or something like that, and they can wait for that at a different phase that's in there in terms of that. So, you know, we kind of passed these on. I just asked that process because I knew that there were a couple where under the appropriateness, there'd be a comment or something in terms of that. And I know it's a couple of the meetings, those applications got delayed. So at least I was assured that they're sending them forward, you know, to go ahead and not hold up the applicant from going forward with their builder and making those changes, but that before, you know, a permit is issued, those things are checked off and verified.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see what they were planning to do to remedy that, so that's why I just wanted to call attention. To be heard, to be.
I make a motion, we accept the certificate of appropriateness with conditions for A, B, and C.
Second.
Motion moved second. All in favor? Aye. Who opposes? So motion passes. Public forum. Already gone past that. Anyone else here that hadn't spoken? Come right up. I don't have your card, but I know who you are. Ron, did you need to speak to something?
You passed it.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Who you might-
Good morning. My name is Paulette Smith, 840 West Cape Light Road, Lake Ellen. I want to ask the city whether or not we use Blake Park for our church on July 20th and have a community day. I went to the city hall and they told me Blake Park is first come, first served. I talked to Karen, she said we wouldn't be bothering marketing the park.
side over towards the basketball court or the
Yes,
playground?
like over that side. We're gonna like play basketball games, kickball games.
First come, first serve, you got it.
Okay.
You get it.
You have a question?
The staff need to put it on the calendar so that
Okay.
it's on there.
Public park, it's open,
Yeah.
they get there.
Yeah,
All right.
if somebody else comes, it's not on the calendar, they want it.
Just get there.
If you're kind of in an area, then maybe it would require a special event
Right.
permit.
It's gotta be
You have to
open to
reserve
close
it,
to
guarantee.
Okay.
Like,
We are whittling on down. I know, Roger, you may want to mention about, I'll say it. No. Got it?
I know the time.
I have it. Zone one?
I don't really have anything, I just, going back to what city administrator talked about a moment ago with the tickets for Miss Fowler, we had the pleasure of honoring her at one of the Legacy Awards galas recently, and so I think that opening it up to maybe see if she has any family or friends she'd like to invite, that would be a great gesture. And so I don't feel the need that I need to attend, because I've already seen her honored in one way. So, how do you feel about that?
I already told Jim that I needed 2 tickets, and the rest of them could go to the commissioner of the public.
Very good. Anything else?
No, I'm finished, thank you.
I happen to have been going through or reviewing some past ordinance or some past commission meetings, and came across quite a few of them that the commission has always approved or recommended who the parade marshal was going to be for our parades. So, between Karen and Alan, they recommended that David Byers be the grand marshal for the 4th of July parade, and I'd like to make that motion before the commission.
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor? Aye.
What was
The name, please.
David Myers.
David Byers.
Senior.
I'll give it to you. If you know his house is on the Christmas, he always has the big glare on the
The other thing I got is, on this meeting, I guess we're allowed one vote, since you're the senior person, I guess you should be the one that gets to put it on.
I was going to also announce that Johnny Shavis' funeral will be Saturday in Deltona at 11 o'clock at the New Hope Baptist Church in Deltona. Friday, tomorrow night, they will have the wake, which will be from 5 until 7 at the Grady Union First Baptist Church. That's on Clara and Voorhees in Milan. That's just going to be a whole day. I did get a pot that planted, which I'll put the city commissioners, it's from the city commission. Is that right? We also have proclamations for the, 2 proclamations. One is for Fowler, and the other one is for Juneteenth, which will be celebrated. It's going to be the 19th of June, next week. And there are going to be a couple of events. So our proclamation, I was invited to, not invited, but they were asking for a proclamation. Rather than us have a proclamation, just put it in our archive somewhere. I'll take it to the organization. I need your signatures, Roxanne has them. Any other questions?
Back on Ms. Fowler, not Ms. Fowler, Johnny Mays. James Center, and they asked that people don't want to send flowers, but they, in her honor, make donations to the Massey James Center, because she wanted to make sure that that place stayed running. And of course, they need the assistance.
I said Cliff? You waiting for you?
My heart's really.
Okay.
I have a couple of things. Jim, I would like to make a request that any, thing coming before the commission, presentations before the commission to ask for anything be brought with supporting documentation for it, because I feel that it's too easy to stand at the podium and embellish things. Then when you go back after the fact and try to find the documentation or certificates or whatever, it's not always what it is said to be. So moving forward, I would prefer to have, before I vote, I'd like to have the information that's going to be presented.
In the presentation.
Yes.
So you tell them, like, supply us the document ahead of time, how it
Yes.
works, or whatever it is.
Please. I don't like voting on things at once. Now, the other thing I have is, somebody pointed out to me that there was a firestorm on Facebook, which I don't go on Facebook, so I really don't care, but apparently it got pretty bad, and posts had to be taken down. In light of the fact that we had an email also sent into the city by a resident that asked very poignant questions, and there was also an email sent in by another resident accusing us of sometimes giving out misinformation from the dais. So my question is, who actually is in charge of the little pantry? Is that a city pantry? Because according to the website, it pretty much states that it is.
What I have found is back in February of 2021, the commission granted a 3-month temporary trial, waived any agreement, and it never came back. Part of the pantry was then that Scott had drafted, I'll use a lease for a better term, there might have been a luck, again, just a change of that, so that it spelled out some things in reference, and that there had to be insurance by the person running the pantry, so the city was not liable because we had allowed it on our property. Yes, there's a disclaimer on the window on the pantry that talks about, risk of food or whatever like that, but maybe Scott can weigh in, but technically right now, I think the city could be liable in the sense because it's on our website, it gives every impression that it's the City of Lake Helen pantry. And maybe a previous commission, they granted a 3-month temporary, and why it didn't come back, I don't know. So maybe what needs to happen is you all make a permanent decision on if it's going to stay there, then the agreement goes in place, the liability insurance, that would be required from somebody else is in place, and then we're there. I got emails asking how we were monitoring food, how we were keeping it, and what have you, and I was saying it wasn't a city pantry.
So you said it wasn't a city pantry?
That's what I was always told, that it wasn't, that it was Miss Query's pantry.
So what is that?
That
We
we,
hold the insurance and everything on it? No?
no, I mean, there is no,
Oh, there's
so it'd be our liability. My comment was, we don't store the food, I don't check expiration dates, I don't know, how it's kept or any of that. We don't monitor that. So at some point, it was a temporary 3 months, so either make it permanent and maybe the document that Scott drew up, that would be like the contract, and that gets put in place, and that goes from there, because there was a lot of emails coming back and forth.
Exactly.
And they were directed at the city in the sense of, what are we doing in our responsibility? And we don't have.
Scott, do you want to weigh in on
I think the reason I proposed to have the lease agreement or license agreement, I can't remember what it was to try to protect the city from any liability. We have insurance that would cover it. We're also protected by sovereign immunity that would provide limits of liability for us. So, and I think when Jim was trying to figure out what happened, he came across some conversations during the commission meeting where at least one or two of the commissioners said, look, this is a city function or city purpose to do this, so we should just go ahead and do it and not require the insurance, the agreement in place because of insurance. This really is a city or a public purpose or something like that. But I think the understanding was that the operator would go by and check it regularly and there would be disclaimers put in there. But it is on our property. I think we should just assume if somebody was to get sick or whatever from that, yeah, we would be sick. We just have to assume it.
They had also proof that they got sick, they got sick in the restaurants on the way.
Oh, sure. I mean, there'd be causation.
Yeah. Great.
From what I recall on it, there was a probationary time, and then there was an agreement written up that had a whole harmless section into it. One of the issues that happens to a lot of these food pantries across the United States is there's an agreement that, if you can afford something to leave something, and if you need something to take something, and we have an issue with some people trying to create problems in town, and I believe somebody's going there and purposely putting spoiled or bad stuff in there, taking pictures of it, then blowing it up on Facebook and making it look like it's something bad. I don't think we have any security cameras that are monitoring the area to see who's doing what, be able to identify them or anything like that, but it's an issue going all across the United States with all these different food pantries like that are in there. I know from what I recall on the Facebook, the dates weren't that far out, and the FDA does have a chart of dates that the food is good where it actually expires. A lot of the food says best if used by. If it's used a month after that, it may not taste as good as it did prior, but it's still good for you. It's not going to hurt you. It's until it reaches that FDA expiration date that it actually starts going bad. That's why they say look at the cans. If they're swollen, don't use them. If they're partially open, don't use them, stuff like that. But
Can I speak on this? I mean, it's been going on for 3 years. It's very successful. We have fed literally thousands of meals that have come out of there, and not just meals and food, but hygiene products. Funny how this has just become an issue. It is maintained. It is very well supported throughout this community, stocking it, cleaning it. I maintain it myself. I've never asked for a dime, nor accepted a dime from the city. for that. The community loves it, and they need it. They truly need it. We have the church pantry that's open 2 days a month. This is the stopgap for all of that time. And there's a lot of people who need it. So
What is the disclaimer saying?
it hold harmless. You're basic. I can't recall it, but
It might be good if it said, just please check the dates on items as.
and we do.
Does that say that on this?
Basically, it's you're on your own. We're held harmless. There are sometimes we know that people put stuff in there that just to be facetious. People will go in and pull it out. There's a group of us who maintain it regularly. I have seen many of you many mornings. So I don't know why this is all of a sudden an issue other than just somebody being ugly, and that's a shame for all of us.
I'd like to just add something to this because somehow a friend of mine out where I live kind of got into this dispute with the person that was unhappy. And it all started from the pantry receiving product from the post office. And I know for a fact that the post office for 3 years has donated to this little pantry. And Ms. Wary never asked them for it. They went to her and asked. So I saw part of that going on, and a friend of mine actually, the person who was so angry about it started private messaging her. So that's what it all started over, is how did she get all this product from the post office? Well, they called her and said, we've got this product, you want to come get it?
Actually, they messaged me, and I have it in writing for anyone who doesn't believe how this, the Strawberry Festival donated. And I will tell you, as many in this community can tell you, there was so much from the Strawberry Festival, it went to Massey James. Boxes went to Massey James, and to the villas. Honestly, the harassment, and to be facetious, is just so out of line. It truly affects all of us in our community, and we should be standing together for our community.
On that note, I totally agree. Because from what I've heard, some of the things that are on the Facebook page that make wild accusations, unfounded claims, it's like a cancer that spreads. So if you nip it in the bud, you can either one of two things. You can nip it in the bud, or you can keep feeding it. And that's the bottom line. So wherever you find yourself in that nipping it or feeding it, that's what we like. It is it's the least of the all.
Oh,